Welcome back to Ruthless TV, everybody. Now, today we're going to be diving into the latest episode of Carl Weber's Family Business, New Orleans. And before we get started, let me just say that this is a masterpiece that truly captures the soul of New Orleans, right? From the iconic bridge to the vibrant, muted tones of the historic buildings and even the haunted beauty of the swamps. Every detail, it feels so authentic. And if you've ever wondered what makes New Orleans like a unique backdrop for a story, this episode right here, it brings it all to life. They even captured the blood-drinking voodoo lady. So stick with me as I take you on this episode scene by scene, breaking down every twist and every turn right here on Ruthless TV. Now let's go. This episode is titled Rest, No Peace, and it opens with John LeBlanc's goons, his family. They're dumping Red's body into this swamp of crocodiles, right? And they also have another body to get to, but before they get to that body, they notice Pierre's car. So they had to go over and check it out, and guess who's sitting inside? It's Sebastian, right? So we're going to find out why he's sitting in there just a little bit later. So the Duncans are loading the next plane to go back to New York, and they're stopped because, you know, of course, nervous trigger finger Marquise is scared. Like, he's very nervous and he's uptight. He's on edge for sure, and rightly so. But they got stopped by Nene. Nene said if her kids are going to New Orleans, that she's going to go too. So there you have it. And they're trying to talk her out of it, telling her, you know, it's too dangerous. You know, you don't need to go, go back home and bake some cookies or something. No, they didn't say that. But Nene was dead set on going, and there was no stopping her. And by the way, DJ's going too. Then we see Monique and Big Shirley attending the recession or the funeral for Pierre. And Monique isn't too sure that they should be there, but Big Shirley said that today is the day that she settles all of her family's business. So they stayed. And in the meantime, we see Floyd. He went to go and visit the guy who was at the casino that night that Pierre got killed. Y'all remember him? This is our chatty patty of the group, the one that talks way too much. And my grandmama always used to say that your tongue is your worst enemy. And this is his case because he talked so much to the point that he told Floyd that he and the other guy were on their way to the funeral to talk to John LeBlanc. He said that the money that Big Shirley gave to them was peanuts. They really wanted a bigger cut, so they were going to tell John LeBlanc all that they knew about what happened at the casino that night. Just stupid. And little does he know, Floyd is there to make sure that he don't talk to nobody ever again. He laid him out right there on the floor. Floyd wiped up his fingerprints and then he left. But I really appreciated this character for the short time that he was on screen because his character was so believable. It was so believable. And, he really carried it well. He was really funny. He was spontaneous. And unfortunately, he told on himself. And Floyd played his role really well, too. I could really believe that he's a gangster and he can take people out. He just wears a suit instead of Tim's. And here we're watching Big Shirley and Mo walk alongside John LeBlanc and his wife, Marie. She's offering her condolences, and we can tell by the look on her face that she's just trying to get a feel for where John's head is. And then he told her, well, my brother loved your place. He loved being at the Blues. And that was pretty much it. And then Mo was like, well, can we leave now? So now Floyd has made it over to Todd's friend's house. Now, this is 2 of the 3 people that were in attendance at the casino that night. He's calling and he's frantic because he can't get Todd on the phone. So he says to himself, well, I'll just go over to John myself and get all the money. But when he opened the door, Floyd was right there to give him the same treatment that Todd got. So now that's 2 out of 3. So now we have only one witness left, and that's Aaron. So Big Shirley and Mo took care of him right there in broad daylight. Cousin Curtis had to check on Marquise to make sure he was okay. And he said, yeah, I'm fine. I'm not really worried about Jean LeBlanc. I'm worried about my mama. Big Shirley got him shaking in his boots. So Aunt Nene said, don't worry about it. She'll take care of Big Shirley. Floyd is giving Big Shirley an update and letting her know that he took care of everybody except Aaron. But she said, don't worry about it, that her and Mo took care of it. Now that they've stopped all 3 witnesses from going to John LeBlanc, they can now bring Marquise back home. Before everyone left the recession, I think that I called him Quincy before, but Prince. Prince moved over to tell Jean LeBlanc that they found his brother's car. And, he had to stop to handle that. And his wife didn't understand that. She was like, you told me there was going to be no work today. And he was like, listen, it's not going to take that long. This is very important. We all know that Jean is a thug. Girl, he ain't trying to go home and be all lovey-dovey with you. He trying to figure out what the hell going on with his brother. So you got to let him have this one. So now we move to the clubhouse where they're holding Sebastian with a bag over his head. And apparently he had fell asleep because now he's awake and he's talking ish to everybody. So old boy right here just had to get up and knock him in his mouth to get him to shut up. And I just love his accent. He was like, put him back to sleep. You hear me? I need to go to Louisiana, okay? Mayor Ronald is being informed by his sheriff that they found Aaron's murdered body on the streets. And he said, oh, no, this is not a murdered body. He just got stampeded by the crowd. This is not what that is. So she quickly changed her story, and we can quickly see that they're basically in the business of robbing people. Robbing people blind, aka Big Shirley. He told her to get it cleaned up, but if he has to call someone else to do it, that she's basically gonna lose her job. So the LeBlancs are retiring for the night, standing in their foyer. Their daughter has gone off to be with friends, and Jean said he's gonna take a shower, and get some rest. Marie told the housekeeper, listen, go ahead and get that bottle of good champagne and 2 glasses, and we're not to be disturbed for the rest of the night. I don't know, something about how that maid was looking at Jean as he was going up the stairs. I don't know, it didn't look right to me. And I don't know, maybe I'm just reaching. And the only reason that I say this is because we're gonna see later on why I said it. I'll just reserve my comment. Then in our next scene, we got our car full of crazies, the crazy Duncans, the crazy side. The Duncans got all kinds of sides in their family. Crazy Larry is out of his medication, so they're gonna go in and rob the pharmacy. And normally one would just go and order their prescription for the refill. But because he escaped from the insane asylum, he can't really be on record as picking up medicine. He's got to stay under the radar. Now, let's get back to these two, because I actually thought that we were gonna get to see Jean, David Banner in a love scene. That's what I thought, but not. She's, doing all the things, all the charming things that a wife is supposed to do. She's got the wine, the mood is right, she's dressed for the occasion, but Jean turned her down. And why? He didn't do anything as little as give his wife a kiss. He just pulled her head up and then he walked away. I want to say that, his mind is just on his brother. He's preoccupied, like for real. But, it's too soon to tell, his true character and how he is as a husband. I mean, we know how he is in the street. We know how he carry on out there, but how is he as a husband? Apparently, it's not so good in their marriage, because she said that he's ignored her for months. Not days, not weeks, but months. So she's used to this type of behavior from him. I don't know, girl. It would have been hard for me to walk away too, because David Banner looks good. Okay? So instead of spending an intimate evening with his wife, he'd rather go down to the graveyard or to the bar with his boys and pour out some Johnny Walker Black in the spirit of his brother. But I don't know, that's what men do, right? And he told Marie to wait up for him. She said, oh, you're going to be back about 3 o'clock in the morning. He said, well, be up at 3. And guess what? I would have been up at 3 waiting, okay? No problem, Jean. I would have had the accent and everything. But naturally, she thinks he's cheating on her because he's not paying her any attention. So, he got to be getting it from somewhere. So she assumes that he's cheating, and when he leaves, she pulls out the substitute. So the crazies went in and robbed the pharmacy, and no one actually got hurt, which is the good thing. John finally made it to the warehouse where they were holding Sebastian. They pulled the bag off of his head, and lo and behold, we've got motor mouth Sebastian running his mouth, cussing, and just talking shit, right? And John is talking ish back. And shout out to the makeup department on this one. I really like the viscosity of this blood dripping off of his face. Great job. Because in the family business, catfish's blood, oh my gosh, it just stuck there like a pancake. So they're roughing him up, trying to get him to talk, and they found out that Sebastian had big business with Pierre. Besides the fact that Pierre was making him believe that he was the HNIC, he was selling Pierre some really good cocaine, according to them, kilos of it. And due to the fact that Sebastian here thinks that Pierre was the man in charge, I think that this is where the tension started to build between Jean and Pierre. Because according to Marie and her daughter, Jean and Pierre didn't really get along like that. They were brothers, but there was some trouble there. And they think that Sebastian killed Pierre, but little do they know, he didn't even know that Pierre was dead until now. So with all of that being said, Sebastian made the official introduction. He said that he was from South Florida and that he ranched down there. And once his right hand confirmed that he heard of him, then he had another chance to live. Okay, so how he ended up in Pierre's car is he had a deal with him to buy 5 kilos of cocaine, but Pierre didn't show up to make the deal. The goons showed up, and I guess they kidnapped Sebastian, and that's how he got in the car. Mo and Big Shirley are going over the inventory for the Masquerade ball. She's telling her how much liquor they have, how much crawfish, how much shrimp, and yada yada. And it's really funny because when you're having an event such as this, you can't run out of the high-end liquor, right? Because you don't want to make people sick. When y'all go out, do y'all order the top shelf? I know I have to, because I'll be throwing up everywhere. My husband hates it, but whatever. So as they're discussing the inventory, here comes Marquise with a car full of Duncans, all of them together right there in the limo. And Big Shirley and Mo are acting like they're happy to see them, but they're really not. I mean, they are, but they're not, right? They have their reservations. So they all got out of the car. They let them know what they were doing there. And then Big Shirley suggested that they go and, take advantage of the buffet. And Nene was like, well, my children do not eat buffet. Just show me where I can go and cook up a meal for them. And Big Shirley was like, there you go with all of that again. So we can tell that Nene is the bougie sister-in-law, right? Clearly. So when they got all of the hellos out of the way, she told Marquise to come to her office right away, and this is exactly what he was afraid of. Then in our next scene, it opens up with a lot of sirens, right? So we're assuming that the police have gotten behind the crazies. But they didn't. Crazy Larry is going through all the medication one by one, saying that this is not what he takes. I mean, he's freaking out, like literally, throwing medicines out of the window. And he finally found the medication that he needed. And he was so relieved because he thinks in his mind that if he's on his medication, that he can go home to Nene. So Saint had to test the product, and he said that it was the best that he's ever had. So now Jean has more questions for Sebastian. He wants to know how and when he met Pierre. And Sebastian told him it was during Mardi Gras. He was balling, basically. And he told Sebastian that he was the boss, and Sebastian believed him. And he believed him because he was spending money left and right. He had all the women, and he was getting all the respect. So he didn't have a reason to think otherwise. He struck a deal with Sebastian. He let Sebastian live, and now they're best friends. Big Shirley got Marquise into her office and she slapped the out of him. Like, she slapped him really hard. And he was being a little sassy, telling her that he only did what she was too proud to do. And she's really pissed off at him for going behind her back and going to LC. Now, what does she have against LC? Because she's really, really mad. I'm sure we'll find out what that's about later. She had to remind Marquise that their family is built on drugs, quick deals, and violence. And he had to remind her that he's a Duncan too. He said that he wants to run the casino one day and, pass it down to her grandchildren. So if it means bringing the Duncans, the other sides, into his arsenal to do that, then so be it. That's what he's going to do. And we really need to respect that. Like, we really do. Let him be a man. Let him grow up. And I really appreciated this scene for what it was, because the tables turned, right? He told her that he's a Duncan and he has to stand up for what he believes in. I mean, think about it. After all, she raised him, right? This is all he knows. He grew up in this family. She told him that all she was trying to do was protect him. And then he said, but now I have to fight to protect you. So this is very pivotal, very important. And I really appreciated this scene. It was very believable. So he asked her about the things, going on at the funeral. And she said she took care of that. So, he wanted to know how. And this is basically where Big Shirley was like, I had to get my hands dirty too. I mean, she said it in so many words, but that's what she meant. So Crazy Larry called Nene to break the good news that he's coming to pick her up. He's coming to get her. He's on his way to Norcross. He told her that he was on his meds and he had his head on straight. But she had a bit of news herself. She had to let him know that they were in New Orleans now and not in New York. So now we know where they're on the way to, right? They're headed to New Orleans as well. And this was a question in one of my other videos. I wanted to know how in the heck they ended up in New Orleans when they were actually on the way to Waycross, Georgia. So this is how. And this was a nice way to tie this in, by the way. So now we're up to our final scene, and we see Skank or Skunk, whatever his name is. He ran up to Big Shirley as they were on their way to the office. I think this is after they've eaten the buffet. And he says he has to talk to Big Shirley about a matter of life and death. And she said, well, you know, Floyd can handle it for you. And he said, no, I really need to talk to you about this. So Floyd is talking to him about his life or death situation. He never said what the situation was. He just kept throwing out dollar amounts. I think it was like $50,000. So he never really got around to what the heck he was talking about. So Floyd gave him this bullshit story about something, and then he just brushed him off. And then it just kind of embarrassed him and kind of left him hanging. So he said, okay, since you want to talk to me, I'll go and talk to Jean LeBlanc. So apparently he's about to snitch, period. And that concludes episode 2 of Carl Weber's A Family Business, New Orleans. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, you guys. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up because you know I'd appreciate it. And if you're a fan of Carl Weber's A Family Business, New Orleans, then go ahead and sub to this channel for more scene-by-scene videos just like this one. Thanks once again, you guys, and I'm going to see you in the next one.